Explain ELI5 Where does gravity get the energy to attract objects together? Perhaps energy isn't the best word here, which is why I put it in quotes. I apologize for that. Suppose there was a small, empty, and non-expanding universe that contained only two Earth-sized objects a few 100,000 miles away from each other. For the sake of the question, let's also assume they have no charge so they don't repel each other. Since the two objects have mass, they have gravity, and gravity would dictate that they would be attracted to each other and would eventually collide. But where does the power for this come from? Where does gravity get the energy to pull them together? A lot of answers explaining how gravity works. Where the energy actually comes from, we don't actually know. Scientists don't really know what gravity is besides an attractive force. They haven't been able to find a particle for gravity, the graviton, yet. Some people think it could be a result of quantum mechanics along with time. But there isn't enough evidence to really prove that yet either. You can think of gravity as attraction, but it is actually the result of the curvature of time. Spacetime 4 dimensions. Anything with mass will slightly curve spacetime. The resulting curve creates potential energy as the objects will fall towards the gravity source. The force of gravity, the gravitational constant x mass 1 x mass 2 distance between the two masses 2. Look up a visual representation of Lagrange points on YouTube for a neat representation of curvature. No one knows. This is one of the top mysteries of physics. It's called action at a distance. We've never witnessed what's going on between two objects with gravitational pull. Have you ever seen the balls on an elastic sheet example? Mass distorts space-time. Earth is not orbiting the Sun because there is some energy. Earth is actually going in a straight line. But this line is curved because there is a supermassive object nearby the Sun. The mass itself curves space-time. No need for any intermediary energy or carrying particle. We still have no clue. Right now, it's commonly explained as the default force. It's always there, and there's no real clear mechanism. Gravity doesn't speed things up. It slows them down. Everything in the universe would like to move at the speed of causality c. But mass slows things down. The more mass it has, the more drag created. Things with no mass, a photon for instance, just go at the default speed. The Earth isn't pulling you down to it. It's your fault for having mass. If you didn't have mass, the gravity of the Earth would leave you alone. That is because gravity is fake. There is an intelligent pulling phenomenon, however, which is very well explained by any Christian science textbook. Picture two bowling balls on a large trampoline. The curvature of the trampoline causes the bowling balls to fall toward each other. From my understanding, things fall because the mass of objects curve spacetime. Other objects will follow this curve because of its own mass. So the energy is actually mass. So a long time ago there was a really big explosion. Like really big, even bigger than you're thinking, and it threw everything into motion. And even though 14 billion years have passed and we're at least 46 billion light years away by now, we're all still flying away from that blast. As a bubble goes up in a liquid, think of gravity as a property of objects in a medium. The bubble is less dense than the medium, so it ascends with no apparent force applied. Objects behave approaching each other in the medium, called space-time, with no apparent force applied. Imagine you're going through a straight line in space. A massive body like a planet curves space-time itself. The straight line you're following will then be curved towards that massive body. The curvature depends on the mass of the object and your distance to it. Like those classic demonstrations of a ball on the middle of a fabric. To escape this straight line, that's when you'll have to exert energy to row outward. This is the plot of Interstellar. We don't really know how gravity works. We can only describe its effects to varying levels of complexity. A good explain like ELI5 description is to imagine a bowling ball in the center of a trampoline. This is sort of how gravity warps spacetime to attract other objects. They release the energy they stored when pulled apart, as if they were connected with a spring. In modern physics, the reason is that everything deforms the space around it as if it were an elastic sheet. Two objects tend to fall to each other due to the deformation of space. As two objects would slide to each other on a sheet deformed by their weight. I can't exactly tell you, but I once saw a video of some guy putting a bowling ball over a piece of fabric and another ball rolling around it, and he sounded really smart. So something to that effect. I'm sure you have seen illustrations of gravity as warped space-time. Just imagine it like that and the question loses its meaning. It's like asking where does the hill get the energy to make things roll down? If you can answer this, you'll not only get a Nobel Prize but go down in the history books as one of the greatest scientists ever. I actually know the answer. No way am I posting it here so you can take all the credit. The question you should ask is, why does mass curve spacetime? And why does matter in motion follow spacetime? Gravity is currently explained as curvature of spacetime. So, it's not a force like the other three. A better question you should ask, from where comes the energy for the strong nuclear force? It's 1 times 1038, 100, 00, 00, 00, 00, 00, 00, 00, 00, 00, 00, 00 times stronger than gravity. And why is it only affecting small distances? We don't know, we only have theories. I always thought that was cool. Is it an intrinsic property of matter these days, or what's the thinking? That is the trillion-dollar question. And if anyone here figures it out, they've ensured eternity for themselves and their legacy. Some people think you mean why they too attract. I think you mean where is the energy coming from. I think the energy comes from borrowing from a mysterious thing called potential energy. If you try to separate them again, you have to give the mysterious thing the energy back. That's why if two objects are moving away from each other at high speed, then they will slow down.